What's up, folks? Welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. I put it right there like that. There we go. Nino's Corner.tv. I am joined with John Carman, once again, Secret Service agent back in the day under Carter and Ford. Yeah, there you go. Put that hat on. There you go. um, so lots going on. Bank of America freezing accounts. Israel has hit a Russian arms depot in Syria. Looks like all the makings of a nuclear showdown to me coming pretty soon. I would imagine within this month it's going to get really, really bad. Don't you say so, John?
Yeah, the timeline is going. I mean, I used to do this. Well, I still do it. I do prophetic stuff on the side where I can't ignore it. And I used to have a guy that would work out the calculations. So basically, the timeline religiously, if you guys are religious into apocalypse stuff,
I just did that with
is
Bo Pony yesterday.
yeah, tribulation is going to be 4/19/2025. Now, 4/19 is a prophetic historical patriotic date in history of the United States in April 19th, because that's when Tunney Tavern in Concord, and they had to battle with the Redcoats and stuff like that. 4/19 was the same, April 19th,
So this
Hurrah
is not going to
Building.
get any better. This is just going
No,
to keep
no,
escalating out of
no,
control.
no, it's getting a little worse, and it's going to get worse because the second coming doesn't happen until allegedly September 30th, 28. And I'm sitting here suffering myself
So you're
already.
saying the second coming of Jesus is going to come
Yeah.
on? How do you? I thought nobody knows the day or time when he comes.
Well, yeah, that's the technical response. Nobody knows the date and time of his return, but a gematria person who runs it through King James Version, regular gematria, advanced gematria, Stone's Concordance. I'm saying that for a reason. If people are listening and writing on their tablets, everybody ought to get out their notepads every time I go on the air, because I'll rattle stuff off that it's really prophetic and stuff sometimes. But and then they run it through the Torah. Now, I always tell this guy stuff on numbers. He didn't know to run it left to right and right to left. In Hebrew, you go right to left. See what I mean?
Yeah.
If
So
I
you're
come
saying
up
the
with a
second
number,
coming of Jesus is according to
9/30/28.
9:30. I'm writing that
So,
down. All right,
so
let
I
me just
used to
jump on this real quick,
go
John,
ahead.
real quick. All right, folks, you better get your noble gold. Are you worried about the future of the U.S. economy? Because we all are right now. With so much uncertainty in the air, it's natural to fret about the security of your retirement savings. But there's one asset that stands the test of time, and that's gold. For centuries, gold has been the hedge against market volatility and economic instability. With a gold IRA from Noble Gold Investments, you can harness the power of precious metals to help protect your financial future, folks. By rolling over your existing IRA or 401k into a self directed gold IRA, you can enjoy the potential for long term growth and stability. Diversify your portfolio with a tangible asset that has real value. Setting up your gold IRA has never been easier with Noble Gold Investments' streamlined process and open guidance. Expert guidance, sorry. This election year, don't let election volatility and uncertainty keep you up at night. Vote for the timeless safety of gold and silver in 2024. And by the way, Noble Gold Investors will give you up to 10 1-ounce silver trump coins or a 10-ounce silver American flag bar if you open up a qualified account today. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com, noblegoldinvestments.com. All right, John, I mean, okay, so you've just put out two big dates here. 4/19/2025, 9/30/28. I've heard Philip Schneider. Are you familiar with Philip Schneider, the guy that did the whole deep
Yeah, I
underground
know about
dulce?
Phil Snyder and um, Costello, who also worked at Dulce, New Mexico. Yes,
So they've said that there was alien underground wars there and this and that. Is there truth
that's
to
how he
that, to
got
your
injured.
knowledge?
He ended up having a
Right.
injury with a laser thing and had his chest, and I guess it was his left hand had some fingers missing. Thing.
Burnt off, right.
He got killed. He was assassinated. They
Okay,
took
so
all of his special property stuff that relates to Area 51 and Roswell, because he had actual stuff like some of the other people had found metal objects with alien inscriptions in it, stuff like that.
wow. Okay.
Thomas Edwin Costello was the name I was trying to spit out real quick. He was a security guy at Area 51. I'm sorry, Dulce, New Mexico, underground with the actual aliens, reptilians, and things like that. See, I've got that knowledge too. I mean, that's just for fun.
Let's talk about that on Nino's Corner.tv because
Sure.
that's hot on YouTube. But
Yeah.
um, you said 9/30/28, the second coming. But Philip Schneider has talked about wormwood, and he's talked about a meteor or an asteroid that's projected to hit the Earth. I want to say 2028 or 2029. I can't remember the exact year, but he said that they're watching it now, and that's why the Vatican has these massive telescopes out. They're watching the
Right.
skies because of
Like we
this.
got Halley's Comet, and then we got the other comet. We just had another one that was an asteroid, but it was only like, a small pittance compared to these other ones. And then, of course, you got the Oumuamua that's circling around continually. The moon is a base, it's not a planet, it's hollow, and they already tested that.
Allegedly, we have to say allegedly on FluffTube.
Exactly, allegedly. I use
Allegedly,
that
it
more
could
than
be.
most
Could
people.
it be a base? We don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Got the Oumuamua, and then there was another one that's out there as well. So they're like satellites that are constantly monitoring the planet because we have alien interests, underground, interdimensional. And Howard Hughes used to meet with George Van Tassel up at Big Rock, up at Joshua Tree area, just north of where they used to have contact in the desert meetings. And they would have tall whites meeting with those guys, just like Nixon and Eisenhower back in the day. 53 Eisenhower went to Edwards Air Force Base, which I've been to, and went through Civil Air Patrol training and all that. They met with two saucers, and they had a vehicle that had Secret Service people that were two of the agents that were in Dallas in 63. Two of them.
Wow.
Nixon didn't go because he knew specifically that they had telepathic abilities and they could read his mind. Now, why is that?
I've
Why
heard
is
that.
that? That's interesting. Why is that? Also, the fact that Howard Hughes was called in because he was the expert back in the day for anything that flew. He was building aircraft, even rivets smooth to the surface, so it was less resistance. And there's a connection between him and he donated millions of dollars to various Republicans and Democrats in Congress and somebody named Donald Nixon, which was Richard's brother. That's the 18 minutes that's missing off of the Rosemary Wood's video or audio when she was doing the tape, because everything is taped. It's national security, it's historical, and Oval Office. That's why when I was protecting Jimmy Carter, who just turned 100 the other day.
Is he really still alive, man?
Yeah, he's still alive. He doesn't look good, but he's still alive. And I protected Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin on peace talks in a private part of the mansion. So nobody could be recorded. You see what I mean? That I know these things because that's I worked there. But there's so much stuff that we could talk about Howard Hughes connected to the recovery of the Russian sub during Nixon, and then it held over from Operation Glomar, if I wrote it down right, and then it went to Operation Matador under Gerald Ford in 75 when I was protecting the embassies outside the White House in the DC area. Russians, Venezuelan, Egyptian, Israeli, I have to say it twice, all these embassies because of counterterrorism, because of a guy named Carlos Ajacal since Munich in 72. 𝗬𝗓𝗏 Ramirez Sanchez, and he's supposed to be in prison in Paris still alive today, but nobody's given updates. That's where they base all the movies like Munich and stuff like that.
So let me ask you this, John. With everything that's happening right now, obviously we've kicked off World War III, in my opinion. Do you agree with that?
Well, I hate to jump to that because if they did, we wouldn't be talking too long because it only takes about 15 minutes to launch. There are Russian subs off the coast of the United States and other key locations, just like we have ships in the Middle East, in the Mediterranean, and those locations on either side. And in fact, I think Scott Ritter was quoting recently, I just caught this like last night, was saying that we did not support Israel and block all the rockets that came in from the proxy countries by Iran, which means why didn't we? They showed a few shots launching air-to-air
What's the
anti-missile
defense
missiles.
system? Iron Dome or something like that, right?
Yeah, there's Iron Dome. There's also another one called David's Sling, David and Goliath story. And then there's another one, something Arrow. So they have several operations where they can block all these things off. But my God, they had so many rockets coming in. It was raining rockets from the sky.
So massive failure.
Well, yeah. Well, hold on. I think they only got like 8 people recorded killed recently in the last 24 hours, but that's still significant. They're testing the defense system. And also by defending against it, they're using up all their defense weapons. And that's what they'll do. They'll run it out and run it out and run it out so that they have nothing left to give. That means the people in the United States military ships have to use their systems and then maybe other ones. At the same time, you have other countries supporting Iran, China, maybe even Russia, because these armaments are marked and they're going back and forth, and drones. So drones is like, they're still spitting out thousands, if not millions of drones, even to small drones to larger drones. The larger ones are millions of dollars. So it's a military grade, but they still could do damage with the smaller ones as well.
So this is an October to remember. This is going to be bigger than all of them. I would say that this is just going to keep escalating. I've been watching the P. Diddy stuff, and I think that that's going to lead, its tentacles are going to lead to lots of celebrities and politicians as well. Do you agree with that? And do you think that is why maybe they're scared because they see the vice grips closing in on them and they need to escalate World War III?
Yeah, it's getting worse because I monitor with the United Nations and their national security council meetings and things like that, because we also protected United Nations and diplomats besides Department of State. Secret Service specifically is there. So that's part of our mission. Exactly. Embassies and foreign nationals and ambassadors. So when they get involved and they start doing all this stuff, they need to take a break and take a serious break and sit back and hold and pause. That pause is for a reason. I think there was a famous movie, Twilight's Warning or Twilight's, where they had a nuclear event, and the head of the United States maybe got injured at that time or not. So they revert back to vice president who was killed, to Speaker of the House who was killed, to other congressmen and senators. If you go by chain of command, it's no different than in England, where they go by the knights on the highest levels to still maintain like continuity of government, COG. And eventually they pulled out some guy who was the agriculture secretary to make him president. So he was on TACMO.
So they went down chain of command.
Yeah, exactly. So if you wipe out the whole top version of the parliament or the Congress and the Senate and the president and the speaker, you got to keep going down the chain of command until you get to somebody, maybe even in military, who might be a commander or a general or something, who has to take over temporarily until they get the government back into gear. Because if it's not, they didn't get out quick enough, and they've got places to go to for safety and underground. Go ahead.
With everything that's happening right now, with Russia, with Israel, with China, every country now is red hot. And I always say that this is a globalist war, and it's a globalist controlling each country by proxy. Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
But it has to be even bigger than that. Then I go up the ladder just a little bit more, and I think, well, could Earth just be the sandbox to something bigger on a galactic level? Could there be other entities, maybe aliens, call them angels, call them demons, call it spiritual warfare, involved here? The war is really on a fourth or fifth dimension, and it's materializing here on the third. Could that be the truth? Could we be, with your knowledge of what you know, is there something bigger going on? Is there a galactic war happening, and everything's just materializing here on planet Earth?
Yeah, we're seeing various angles of it. There are aliens. They're interdimensional. They've also recorded for years where the military testified before the Senate committees and so forth when they had their ICBM shut down by UFOs. Well, great. If they could do that, why don't they do that by the other people in the other countries? Because it doesn't concern them, or they're not affected. Problem is, we have other people who live in other countries who are not affected anyway. That's why they have emergency bunkers set up below the equator. Some people high up and intelligence say, if you get involved in a nuke above the equator, you're going to be involved. But if you go below the equator, it won't affect you the same way, because it doesn't It doesn't transpose or go across the equator a certain way because everything travels opposite. You know, it's electromagnetic fields. But they have places set up in Australia and New Zealand below the equator. So if you need to survive, people already set up bunkers there already. If you're at the North Pole, which is restricted, and alien interference and all that, and the South Pole, which is the Antarctica for many, many years, even back to Uncle Adolf in 33, they've got stuff down there that they can't get into, alien stuff. So that means prophetically, you've got all these other people going against each other, but like the Muslim faith, they believe as long as 1/3 of them survive, they're worth sacrificing the other 2/3. Think about that. China's got so many people, they're throwing them left and right. They're shipping people on sea containers. The sea containers are being held up again. Now we have strikes. In fact, somebody said out loud.
Be careful here. I know where you're going with this. Be careful.
Okay.
That might want to go on the back channel, but I know where you're going on that.
And I used to work at the Customs Service handling those kind of sea containers and stuff as well. So,
all right. So can we talk about that on
Sure.
.tv?
Sure.
So what's really inside those containers, correct? That's the question. All right. Let me ask you, so what's your belief on what aliens are? What would you say they're demons? Would you say what would you say they are? Are they from other planets? Dimensions?
I have the same prophetic discussion with some other people I know. If you look on ancient writings and murals where Jesus was, they have these cone-shaped ET traveling devices in the sky going one way, another one going the other way. And I don't know, that's before we had planes. That's before we had helicopters. Even in the Mayans, they have a gold thing that looks like a plane. And there was a famous movie that had some CIA guys going in there to Afghanistan because they wanted to take pictures of the Vimanas. Vimanas are upside down cone-shaped, or they look like tops, if I could do it the shape right. That, believe me, they will first say in the ancient times, oh, that's a demon because it doesn't look human. Or maybe it really did look bad because it looks worse than the devil in the worst definitions that the church will put out. You know, horns, a tail, teeth, weird looking configurations. Even the angel, Ǧibrīl, that saw Muhammad in the cave. He looked like he was part human, part bird. And they do have those. I've got confirmation through my DARPA and other contexts as well. So we've got thousands of different aliens. And other service information was that they had them locked up in these places like over in Area 51. So we have all kinds of stuff going on. They're trying to make chimeras or humanoid blends with aliens and stuff, that they also have some that are locked up that they don't want to get out. There's actual cases, and I've seen this, confirmed it with Dr. Stephen Greer on some of his videos as well. And I've talked to him for hours before, face to face. So this stuff exists. The government doesn't want us to know. That means that we have free energy and we could get by on all kinds of stuff, just like the alleged promises from Valiant Thor. If that rings a bell, the guy from Venus, you know, where they claim, oh, nobody can live on Venus because it's too hot over there. The surface is 104. They never worked in the desert in 𝗀𝗁cie and Mexicali, and it was 115 on the surface. So, you know, that's a joke. That's a lie by NASA. Never a straight answer thing, right? Yeah, it's exactly that. So the more they keep lying, and Bob Lazar knows this stuff too, is that all these things are adding up. But why are they covering up? Because these are the same entities that they looked at as being angels or demons in the past. Doesn't matter what you call them, but the little grays,
they exist.
The drones. They're just humanoid drones. They're going out doing the work of grabbing people.
Yeah, so it's okay. So are they? They are biological. They're not androids, right? They're not.
Right.
They're not.
Right. Biological entities, or the EBEs. But they don't have reproductive systems. They don't even have a digestive system.
All of them don't, or just some of them don't?
Well, some of them, yeah.
Okay.
Some species, yeah. If you do the workers, the short guys, up to the taller ones, the tall whites, then you get into reptilian, which are 12 to 15 feet tall. The Dulce, Mexico story is like crazy because that one guy could eat like a sitting of on a single sitting could eat like 12 geese. Geese are not chickens, they're not ducks, and they're a variation of a duck, and they're not turkeys. They're a little bit bigger than a gigantic turkey that you've ever seen, and that's big.
So there's this knowledge that you have, everything you've looked into. I mean, this is way bigger than people know, and we're barely scratching the surface right now with all this. This goes really deep, and I think that if people dare to venture to go this deep, a lot of people will just have cognitive dissonance and just shut off. They can't
Mhm.
believe this stuff. It's too much to believe. It's too crazy. They don't want to believe it. They just want to go to their Sunday school. They want to go to their church. They want to go to work every day, 9 to 5. Talking to people about this stuff will jar them, would short circuit them, and they'd cause them
Mhm.
to go into massive denial.
Yeah, it throws them off, and it's a shock to their system. Excuse me, because the most recent thing I've seen in an increase of information that's in the information flow is the activity,
Ah, don't
the
say that word.
the children. They're stealing children continually. So why are they doing it for
Yeah, yeah,
and
don't say those
parts?
words. Okay, folks. All right, that
Got it.
stuff we can't talk about. So I got to get
Got
that.
it. Delete, divot,
Yeah, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Um,
redact.
it's okay. So I'll have someone go
But the
over this. But
patterns are there where things are getting more out in the open.
yeah,
And I don't know if I could say it's satanic, but that's what it is. It's
yeah,
getting
you can say
satanic.
that.
Yeah,
It is. And so let's talk about that for a second.
sure.
That's a reality. So I know that I've tried to really dive deep into what Satanists believe. I've noticed that a lot of them are just into what they believe is natural law. They kind of look at God as the original, what we believe in as God, the God of Abraham, whatever, the God of the
Hmm.
Bible, as the kind of like the original slave master, correct? As the one that withheld knowledge from us, and Lucifer came to give us knowledge, who's actually the one benefiting humanity. Am I right in saying this? Am I off here?
That's a good point because you just touched on research I'm doing now on a guy named Morg, who is a converted Christian to maybe Satanism, but he says Lucifer was a being of light. Well, so was Jesus. So which is it? So we're being lied to. Remember, the bad guy lies in the worst possible way. So maybe we don't know who God is, but then there's the creator. See, God, this lower G, upper G, creator, and beyond. So we're being lied to continually, and it's all about control. That's the point of it. Religion is a control thing. Some people are agnostic and all. I still research all the time. I researched since I was a kid, and I went to Sunday school and things like that. But it makes sense when a guy can quote out of the Bible and he's telling you these things. I say, well, that's interesting. Why would this one God tell you one thing, and then the other one is not the same one? One is not loving and controlling and jealous. Those kind of
Yeah,
things. I said, well, then that doesn't sound like the same God.
right.
So you have to ask questions. If you don't ask questions, you don't get answers, and then you step outside Sunday school and religious seminaries and stuff. And I live next to a church. I've had prophetic actual paranormal incidents. I don't know if I've talked about it. We'll have to talk about that off the air.
So
But
before the technology of the printing press, of massive propaganda, I would imagine that the mechanism for control would have been religion.
it
So
is.
that's how the governments and institutions controlled mass populations, was through religion. And that's why even today they're tax exempt, right? They don't have to pay taxes because they are still so valuable to the government in order to control the masses. Am I right in saying that?
Correct. I studied Henry Lincoln. Soskin is his other last name. He was a co-writer to the book by Dan Brown, Holy Blood, Holy Grail. And he just passed away in the last year in Rennes-le-Château, where the Saunier Berenger priest used to live and work there. And he came across a document that was so impacting, he supposedly took it to the Vatican, and they paid him millions of dollars to keep quiet about it. And in the altar of a doorway of an arch, it says this place is terrible. And they've got a statue of a religious thing, and then they have a little troll or a devil-like being that
Gargoyle, gargoyle.
gargoyle. Thank you. Yeah, perfect.
So
So I've researched that stuff too. But Henry Lincoln just passed away, and I suggest people look up Louis Buff Perry. I've tried to reach out to him. He's very difficult because they've put hits out on him. He's exposing the Chintamani stone, which is the Moldavite, Tektite Moldavite, which is the same stone that the Muslims pray to 5 times a day if they go to the, point towards the east and pray to Mecca. That's where that bigger stone is. It's gigantic, and it's encased in a special silver encasement. So I could go into other detail later, but
So I've always thought the value of religion also is, the real value of religion is to create different belief systems and manufacture war. I've
right.
always
Well,
thought,
I studied Eastern religions at China Lake and Ridgecrest by a rabbi, nice guy. Buddhism, Sikhism, those are pretty straight people. They have the turbans, they wear their hair long, they wear wooden comb. They have a 𝗬𝗃𝗏, which is they have a bracelet, and then they have a knife and another category. So they don't smoke, they don't drink, and all that. People get it confused with Muslims, and they're not. So you got all these other religions plus Christianity, divided up in its various groups, and even other groups that are the oldest in India would be India. So that's Pakistani Hindus and Hinduism and all their Shivas and all those other gods. It goes way back. And then the Vamanas, back to the Vamana connection. So why is it that we're going to Afghanistan besides the poppies and the heroin? Because they have so much natural resources, and recently they pulled it up again. Cobalt, lithium. Well, I just got hot intel on this like 2 days ago. I had a premonition with another guy talking about somebody who's trying to help in a place called Asheville, North Carolina. We tried to contact somebody. We're doing a welfare check on somebody prior to the hurricane. 3 days minimum prior to the hurricane. Now it turns out I hear another source that I've got reliable sources tell me no, when they had the hurricane in those areas.
that goes on .tv.
Got it.
Got it. Let's talk about that. All right, folks, we're going to get over to Nino's Corner.tv because I want to dive deep into this stuff. It gets too hot for fluff tube. I gave you all the fluff I could. I gave you all the fluff I could, but let's go back to the back channel.
Up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not benefiting this, but if you look at it carefully, deathprotection.com, you can use that for your phone. It doesn't matter if you have a flip phone like I do, which is a military grade encrypted phone, which we'll talk again. Smartphones, you just hook it up the phone number, it's active within an hour or so, and it works. Cloaking, and there's a GPS additional thing. So
yeah, this has been very eye-opening for me. Let's get back real quick. I want to just talk about one last thing before we go over to .tv and really dive deep into all this. You've given 2 dates, 4/19/2025 and 9/30/2028. When you say the return of Christ at 9/30/28,
he's here. He's already here. That's my point.
Is it the Antichrist, though?
The Antichrist has been around too, but 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗃, who was a rabbi, high-ranking rabbi who died several years back. You can run it through. I'm lucky to remember his name. 𝗬𝗏𝗃𝗁𝗃, Kaduri. He had a premonition about Jesus alive during the time he was alive. He said not to release the information until a year after he died. That's interesting. Remember, the Rock of the Golden Dome has to be destroyed. Al-Aqsa, right next to it, was already destroyed by bombing or something. If they destroy the Golden Dome building, which is under the control of the Muslims, that will mark the beginning of the third temple for the Hebrews or the Jews in their religion and apocalyptic type stuff. That is a special significant.
So if that gets hit by a rocket,
that's it. That's all it takes.
That's the marker.
That's the marker. And once that happens, they have to sacrifice the alleged 4 heifers that were sent from the United States.
They got them over there right now.
I know. They have to do it within 2 to 5 years, and time is short.
So we could expect what you said, the Golden Rock to get hit, right? It's called the Rock of the Dome of the Rock.
Rock of the Golden Dome.
Rock of the Golden Dome. So that gets hit by a rocket, a stray missile, game over. It's on.
I've said this before. If they wanted to end the wars about certain people, all they had to do is look at Mecca, vaporize it, no problem. If they do that, then
Hysteria, chaos.
exactly, exactly. Because they can't pray to it anymore. There's nothing there. Unless they want to move over about 15, 25 degrees.
You destroy that, every Muslim in the world will jihad, go
Well,
crazy.
exactly, exactly. Otherwise, why didn't I always ask why didn't they bow to I'm trying to think of the name, the place where Muhammad saw the alleged angel Jibril, J-I-B-R-I-L for spelling check, not Gabriel, Jibril. Why don't they pray to that? That's where he saw the angel. So it doesn't make sense. So, um, oh, it was in one of the Indiana Jones movies where they went from one part of the Middle East in that area to another part where the castles and the big openings in the rock were so big that only giants could fit in. That stuff exists everywhere. They don't want us to know about it.
So if they already have the four red heifers ready to be sacrificed,
Oh,
all
let me
we're
say this. They had the purest red heifers genetically from the United States. They sent them to Israel. They turned right around and allegedly re-inseminated them to their heifers, which doesn't make sense unless they have something we don't know about. That makes me question what's the difference on the DNA of the other ones? Were they set up and perfectly bred and fed like they do in countries like even Japan? They'll feed a cow for beef, Kobe beef. They'll massage it. They'll feed it the best
yeah.
food. They'll give it whatever and all kinds of stuff, and then eventually they harvest it. You know, they do that in some other reasons, but
So
even
my audience should know that once the dome, is it the dome of the rock, the golden
Rock
dome,
of the Dome.
rock of the
The
dome,
Dome of the Rock. I'm sorry, I said
once
it
that gets
backwards.
blasted, once that gets taken out,
That's the
vaporized,
mark.
that's the big marker. And that
That's the big one.
means all bets are off, and the red heifers then get sacrificed after that.
Yeah, because they've already separated all the valuable stuff, the actual Ten Commandments, which allegedly are broken down into special stones, and then they put it into a container. The mercy seat or the Ark of the Covenant, sacredly moved away because Ron Wyatt discovered it down below the rock of Golgotha, which above the rock was where Christ was crucified at that point. The blood traveled down, and that's where it ended up on the mercy seat. He had it tested by Hebrew scientists, and it was 23X 1Y chromosome.
Means the
That's
God one, the
yes.
God chromosome, right?
Yeah,
The
they say entity, non-human, or God, or angelic, just to put it in it. Because if their DNA is different, which it is, you would expect more and more DNA strands. Like we would have 3 DNA strands. Humans have 1, but maybe there's a difference in whatever you cross-reference it from another being. So, yeah.
All right, folks, get to Nino's Corner.tv. We're going to dive even deeper on this subject, and we're going to talk about pretty much everything that we couldn't talk about here. All right, John, I'll see you there on the back channel.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, folks, help John Carman out. It's Venmo John Carman, John hyphen Carman, CARMAN hyphen 17. John hyphen Carman hyphen 17 on Venmo. Help the guy out. He's really putting his neck on the line coming on Nino's Corner.tv. And meet us over at Nino's Corner.tv. We're about to go all in right now. Later.